How's everybody doing? You guys don't have anything else to do? You're kidding. Must have a pretty good team. Well, I think the most important thing for us right now, and this is a little bit of a different kind of a stretch that the players have to go through. We have 7 straight days of practice. Well, you don't really ever have 7 straight days of practice ever since fall camp, where you might practice that many days before you have a day off. So the most important thing is to maintain intensity during this time so that we can continue to improve and really, pay attention to detail, try to get a good grasp on the game plan so that, when we come back after Christmas, we're not trying to learn a bunch of new stuff. We're just trying to get what we do know right and execute it so that we can go out there and play our best. So I think it's really, really important to finish these next couple days. We've been really pleased with what we've been able to get done so far, with the players in the first 5 practices, and I think the most important thing is to be able to finish strong these next couple days. I really don't have anything new to report other than Zach Houston, got a knee injury in practice, so he's probably going to be out and probably knee surgery. I'd like to really congratulate, the 5 players who earned some kind of a first-team All-American. Amari Cooper and Landon Collins made just about all of them and were pretty unanimous. But J.K. Scott, Ari Kwanjo, and Trey DePriest all made something. I think we had 16 different guys this year on our team get recognized some kind of way, which really makes us happy that our players are getting a lot of positive self-gratification and some recognition for, the great job that they've done, this year, for our team. And since this is my sort of last time that I get to speak publicly, I'd like to really wish all of our fans, supporters, entire university community, and all other folks out there who have any interest in Alabama football, very happy holiday to you and your family. It's kind of a special time of the year, so I hope it's very enjoyable for each and every one of you.
Working on a story on your 5th year guys, the 5th year seniors. You touched a bit on them, back senior week before the Auburn game, but I really wanted to get with you on their impact on the field, but certainly off the field too. I know, you've said your team has dealt with adversity pretty well, and what their role has been in helping you get there.
Well, I think it's getting more and more unusual, to have 5th-year guys on your team. The dynamic of college has changed a little bit, but I think, those kinds of guys that stick around in the program, are very, very dedicated, usually very, very hardworking, really have the right kind of character, that they have a tremendous impact on, and their maturity has a tremendous impact on. There's a lot of big difference between 18 and a 23-year-old, and I think the more of that you can have on the team, the absolute greater the impact might be. And this senior group in general is a really strong character group, and the 5th-year guys have made a tremendous impact, and I think they buy in. They go back all the way to where the expectation wasn't what it is now. We had a different kind of player that we recruited then in a lot of ways, and a lot of those guys came here and earned their way. So, and I think they remember those days, and they really believe in the things that we do. And I think selling that to other people is really a big part of the tradition of the program.
Well, I'm going kind of the other way, Coach. There's a new NFL, limit on evaluations of underclassmen, and I wondered if that had already started. Who chooses the 5 that can be evaluated? And that, have you already started that process?
Well, I guess because I know quite a few people in the NFL, having spent 8 years there myself. I always allow all the guys that are draft eligible, all right, to say, come to me and say, I'd like to know what my draft status might be. So in the more obvious situations, I think when I say more obvious, I'm talking about guys that probably have a pretty good chance to be first-round draft picks. We get the information from them and allow them to go ahead and submit, for a junior evaluation. For the other guys and for those guys, everyone the same, I get some teams to give me an opinion about where they would draft these certain individuals. So if guys aren't in that top category, I tell them, all right, so we're only letting the guys that are the top guys or have a chance to be the top guys because you're going to get a first-round grade, a second-round grade, or a go-back-to-school grade. That doesn't mean if you get a go-back-to-school grade, you can't still come out for the draft. They're just not going to rank you. And the inefficiency of the previous system in terms of how many mistakes they made and the information that people were getting and then what actually happened, because it's too hard to evaluate 100 guys. There used to be 30 guys come out, then 50 guys. Now it all of a sudden doubled in 3 years to 100. And I think everybody realizes that this is not good for anybody. Because there's 50 guys that didn't make teams last year. 36 of them didn't even get drafted. They would all be in the draft this year. And they would have developed in college another year. And they would be probably those third to fifth round guys that are sort of the core guys in the draft, past the very top players. So at some point in time, if we don't get off of this cycle of a whole bunch of guys going out for the draft that shouldn't go out for the draft, and listening to people sell them on the fact that you can get to your second contract sooner, well, they don't tell them that there's less than a 33% chance that if you're a fifth or sixth round draft pick, you're going to get a second contract ever. And if you get drafted in those rounds, you become very cuttable, based on the investment that a team has to make in you. So why not go back to school, get a degree, and try to become a higher pick where you have a better chance and a better investment and a better business decision and a better future? Because it's not really about where you get drafted. It's about what kind of career you're going to have and how long you're going to be able to play. And football is one of the only games where there's no other place to develop players. There's no AAA baseball. There's no B League or whatever they call it in basketball where the NBA guys go and try to develop. There's none of that. So once you make that decision, it's kind of all or nothing. So, we try to encourage our guys that aren't going to be top draft picks to stay in school. Now, last year we didn't have success at convincing everyone about that, and I don't know if we'll be able to do it this year or not.
First, just want to see how T.J. Yeldon's doing and what's the plan for him this week to sort of get him back from those injuries.
Well, we're kind of, it's a medical decision as to what would be the best way for him to be able to come back and be able to be most effective playing. And, that decision is to really limit what he does until we come back after Christmas. All right, so he's doing a lot of rehab. He's doing a lot of conditioning type stuff that is not going to put strain on, the hamstring and some of the injuries that he's sort of had. So we're trying to use this extra time to get him healthy, all right, rather than, sort of staying on this treadmill of, okay, he really never gets better. Now, so that's the plan. Now, if that works, we'll feel great about it, and he'll be healthy when the game comes.
What do you remember about recruiting Joey Bosa, and what kind of player do you think he's turned into?
Well, Joey Bosa is a really good player. He was a really, really good player in high school. We recruited him here really hard. His family has a lot of ties to Ohio State, and we certainly respect that. And, he's certainly developed and, played fantastic for them all year. And You got to have a tremendous amount of respect for that kind of competitive character and, the effort and the toughness and the intangibles he plays with. And he has really good ability. So when you put all those things together, you have a really good player.
I know you've dealt with it a lot of times, and Ohio State is this year having a coordinator staying on when it's taking a job after the bowl game. How do you approach a situation like that? Is it any different, when you have a guy in that situation on your staff?
Well, I think it all comes down to the guy. I did it when I was at the Cleveland Browns when I took the Michigan State job, and we had 3 or 4 games left in the season and went to the playoffs and played, I think, 2 games in the playoffs. And the organization was very supportive, and my first loyalty was to the players on our team and to the organization that had worked hard to. If the players and everybody didn't work hard and you didn't have success, you wouldn't have the opportunity that you had. So and Jim McElwain did it here. We've had coaches do it, and they've all done a really good job doing it because they were the right kind of people. And I would say that I would bet that most coaches would do it the right way.
You've had some success recruiting in Ohio, getting a Trey Priest out of just right outside Columbus. What's that like, trying to get people out of that place where it's so culturally big to go to a place like Ohio State?
Well, I think that everything's so global now in recruiting that there's so much more exposure than there used to be. You used to be sort of cocoon-like exposure. Like when I grew up, the only team that I knew anything about was West Virginia because that's where I grew up. And because that's who you saw on TV, that's who the news was always about. Things weren't global like they are now in terms of, you see Oregon play just as much as you see Alabama play. And I think young people see it that way too. All right, so there's still a lot of sort of homegrown guys who still want to go to school close to home, but there's a lot of other guys out there that, they have different goals and aspirations for what they want to do, and I think those guys are all over the country. And I think the key thing in recruiting is to find out who those guys are, because those are the only guys you're going to have a chance for, and you better focus your energies there rather than somebody who grew up wanting to go to a certain school because that's where they're from and they have tremendous loyalty and ties there. That's probably what's going to end up happening. So I think those people exist all over the country. I don't care if it's Texas, Ohio, Alabama, Florida. I mean, so it's a little bit just evaluating who you're recruiting and what their goals and aspirations are. And I think that's otherwise you end up spinning your wheels quite a bit.
Just want to ask you about how do you feel like DJ Petway's played this year, and also I guess he got his degree recently. How gratifying is it to see him make the most of his second chance back with you guys?
Well, I think he's done a really good job. DJ's done a really good job for us all year long. He's a hard worker. He's certainly been productive for us in the games. He's provided a lot of depth for us. He's been a starter at times. He gives us something in pass rush that we don't have enough guys that can do that. With some of the bigger guys we have to play with on rundowns, he comes in and plays a real critical role for us. I think sometimes players don't understand how important roles are. You got a guy that plays a role in a passing situation, or you got a guy that's a 6 DB or whatever, all right, and all of a sudden that's a critical role. It's a critical role to get off the field on third down. But yet, just like a middle reliever or a closer, that's not a starting pitcher. Guy may only pitch to 3 batters, but that's a critical role because you're finishing the game. It's a critical part of the game. And I think sometimes I appreciate those kind of guys a lot more on the team than they even appreciate themselves, all right, because they all just want to play more. All right, but DJ's really done a good job with that, and he's contributed and done everything we've asked him to do, every way we've asked him to do it, and never been anything but positive about doing it. All right, and it was, really, really good for me, and I think some of our administrators around here, all right, who, our president, who shakes hands with all of our players when they walk across the stage and graduate, when we give somebody a second chance and they do well and graduate from school. There's always a lot of criticism out there. When somebody does something wrong, everybody wants to know how you're going to punish the guy. All right, but there's not enough for 19 and 20-year-old kids, people out there saying, why don't you give them another chance? All right, so I'm going to give a speech right now about this. Like, where do you want him to be? Guy makes a mistake. Where do you want him to be? You want him to be in the street? Or do you want him to be here graduating? When I was over there at the Nagurski, Muhsin Muhammad, who played 15 years for the Carolina Panthers, played for me at Michigan State. Everybody in the school, every newspaper guy, everybody was killing the guy because he got in trouble and said there's no way he should be on our team. I didn't kick him off the team. I suspended him. I made him do stuff. He graduated from Michigan State. He played 15 years in the league. All right, he's a president of a company now. And he has 7 children, and his oldest daughter goes to Princeton. So who was right? I feel strong about this now, really strong. All right, about all the criticism out there of every guy that's 19 years old that makes a mistake, and you all kill him. And then some people won't stand up for him. So my question to you is, where do you want him to be? You want to condemn him to a life sentence? Or do you want the guy to have his children going to Princeton? You want to close on that, or we want to just... You guys are getting me fired up. You better be careful on this one, buddy. You might want to just pass that thing on down the road.
I'm sticking straight to this upcoming game right here. When you look at Ohio State's offense, do you see any similarities with Mississippi State's offense? Is kind of the coaches coming from the same kind of place, and can you draw anything off of those preparations?
Well, there are similarities. They certainly have different kinds of players, very good skilled players, very, very good running back. We're not sure about how much we've seen of the quarterback, but their quarterbacks certainly have done an outstanding job the last 2 years, whether it was Braxton Miller when he played or Barrett when he played, because they were great runners and great athletes, and that combination was very, very difficult on a lot of people and difficult for us as well when we play a team like that. So there is a lot of similarities to when Dan and Urban were together at Florida, but I think the way they do it, they have their own style of doing it, and I think they've progressed. And this is a very, very good offensive team that has been very, very productive, and they've got really good players, and they do a great job with them. And this is going to be a real challenge for us in this game.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.